Good evening, Vikings fans. This is Purple and Gold for Days. This is Justin, along with my compatriot Mike Castellino, the king of Vikings Twitter Spaces. How are you doing tonight, Mike?
I'm fantastic. Man, I love Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. What a guy. What a guy.
It's been a slow day. Not a whole lot to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Well, first off, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Please like, comment, and subscribe to this page. Share it with your friends. Mike and I do a show on Mondays with our compatriot Kyla Rose, and that's called A Day with Mike and Kyla. That's on the Purple Code. So please give them a subscribe too. They're on the Purple Code on YouTube, the Purple Code backup page on Facebook, as well as the Purple Score 1 on Twitter. That being said, this is our channel, so that's the only mentions they get tonight. Vikings make a trade. Vikings win a game, and they only trailed for like 3 minutes in that game. It was a little closer than it needed to be. And check out the Purple Code page as well as this channel. I did simulcast it as well for the longest version of A Day with Mike and Kyla that we have had, Mike's, in the year and plus that we've been doing that. We never went for an hour, but got a little heated, but in a good way. We had some fun. Had a little back and forth about a certain kicker and about a certain cornerback who might have done a little too much showboating, but you want those fireworks, you'll just have to click on the previous two. If you didn't see already, earlier I did a show with my new compatriot, Dave from Skull World. We had Matt Anderson from the Climbing the Pocket group. Wonderful guest, so I want to thank him as well. So now that I've promoted everything else that we are tied to, Mike, let's actually talk about the subject matter at hand, and we have the Vikings. You know, they keep saying that the NFL, the trade deadline's kind of boring, kind of comes and goes, maybe one or two moves, but not today. Not today. Lots of moves going down. We'll maybe touch on some of the other ones, but the one we care about most are the ones that didn't happen in Green Bay. Sorry. Couldn't help myself.
You have to laugh.
I couldn't help myself. That big wide receiver they got for Aaron Rod. Oh, they didn't do that. But
what about Brendan Cooks? Oh, no,
not him either.
No.
How about Chase Claypool? No, not him. But in all seriousness, we can be done with that for a while. TJ Hockenson. Vikings Kwesi makes another trade with a division rival. Same one he already did the first one with, mind you. But having said that, this guy just doesn't care. So, first off, let's talk about the player himself, TJ Hockenson, tight end. He's on the last year of his rookie deal. Now, he does have the fifth-year option that was already exercised, so the Vikings are on the hook for that. But this year is only going to cost the Vikings $965,000 prorated down to about $5.25. That's a steal because guess what? We don't have any salary cap room, and we still don't have any. But we didn't need to make any more because what little we had was just enough to cover this guy. Mike, I've rambled on for about 3 minutes here now. Tell us your thoughts on the TJ Hockenson player, and we'll get to the trade details here shortly. Go ahead.
Okay, so pretty simple. I mean, former first-round pick, top 10 pick on Iowa. He's been a really good tight end. It's not like he was like Eric Ebron. The guy's debatably a top 5 guy at his position in the entire league. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I think Kwesi deserves a ton of credit here. I do want to say this before we get into further details on the Hockenson trade on its own. I have to feel like Kwesi broke the ice with Detroit at the draft. And I don't think that was by accident. He knew that Detroit has not been a world beater over the years, to say it nicely, and that may be some good faith in helping them out. Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and you do me a solid down the line. And I'll be honest, this was a brilliant trade by Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah to acquire TJ Hockenson. I don't remember if I actually said this on a video or not, but I said I wanted nothing to do with Mike Gesicki. I know I retweeted a post that said Hockenson was available, but I didn't think there's any chance Detroit would actually trade him into, especially to us when we're 6-1. But they did. and I'm over the moon. Name another team, Justin, with a top 12 quarterback, top 10 running back, top 10 wide receiver, and a top 10 tight end, and a top 10 left tackle. You'll have a hard time. It's not easy, and that's the Minnesota Vikings right now.
That's one way to look at it. I can't argue that. Well, I mean, you still think Cousins a top 12 quarterback? Nah, I'm just kidding. No, in all seriousness, no, they've got some offensive firepower and they've got some star power. Now the question is about putting all the pieces here together. We've been sitting on the hope of Irv Smith for 3 years now, and God bless him. And, nobody wants to see anybody get injured, but at the same time, he hadn't delivered. It was always about the idea of what Irv Smith could be. Hopefully he comes back this season. Maybe he can be a nice additional chip come playoff time that, teams haven't been scheming for because they've been scheming for Hockenson and Thielen and Jefferson and company. But to your point, what did we say going into this season once Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi were here? Kirk Cousins, no more excuses.
Yeah.
That's what our mantra was. And thus far, I've said a million times, I'll take this version of Kirk Cousins over the previous versions 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not putting up the stats. So what? He's putting up wins. And yeah, defense is playing better. And guess
You're not remembered for stats. You're remembered for wins.
You're not remembered for stats. But guess what? Both the offense and the defense are playing better. Part of that is because they're playing complementary football. Defense, yeah, the offense still has too many 3-and-outs for my liking. They still got to get better there, but they don't have as many as they did last year. Still need to improve on it, though. And this team has found its way to pick each other up. Sometimes the defense picks up the offense. Sometimes the special teams picks them up both, et cetera, et cetera. But right now, like you said, JJ, KJ, TJ, I mean, let's go. That's a bit from the Paul Allen Project on KFAN. But the point I'm making here is a couple of weeks ago was right after, I believe it was after the Saints game where, Rick had said, hey, I think what Cousins needs in the red zone is a tight end. Now, granted, we talked about it on our show yesterday. 5 for 5 in the red zone. First time in a while that they've done that. But no more excuses. He's got everything he needs now. Yeah, right guard could be a little bit better pass pro. You can't have everything. No more excuses. No more excuses.
So I want to add this too. The asset management by Kwesi here was absolutely brilliant. You got 2 picks back. So yeah, you traded a second this year and a third next year. You still get a 4th back this year and a conditional 4th next year. And I hope the conditional thing actually, happens where it's a 5th, because that means we win a playoff game. And that means we did what we said Kirk Cousins needed to do,
right,
was to go to the division round and hopefully go even further and make a legit run to earn an extension. And this is the thing. I really think TJ Hockenson is more than just a tight end. What he is the game breaker to open up this offense. Good luck stopping KJ, JJ, Thielen, Hockenson, Cook in the red zone. That is going to be extremely difficult for any team in the NFL. Also, don't forget we have Jalen Reagor. As a little gadget guy, he has played a role. If you remember the play against the Cardinals this past week, they put him in there. They used him on a little fake jet sweep. Johnny Munt was blocking. He gets out, jumps off the route. Wide open, touchdown. Those are the little things that I'm so happy and excited to see now that are only going to get better. This offense is going to be full throttle now for Washington. And I take back everything I said about being worried about your prediction about saying, see you Monday after a win. If we don't beat the Commanders now, there's something went wrong. Something really went wrong.
Well, to say the least. To say the least, indeed. But I'm going to say it like this. I don't understand why so many teams got involved in trades, including the Chicago Bears decided to bring – the Bears brought a wide end receiver and the Packers did. Okay.
I love it.
Now, why am I going there? What I said with Dave and Matt a little while ago was, like everybody knows, this conference is beyond mediocre, beyond Philadelphia, Dallas, and Minnesota. Now, we don't the next tier I would say would be New York and Seattle, okay, and then San Francisco. And then after that, what else do you actually have in this conference? Some team from the South that's going to get into the playoffs because it's a division and they get one. But who do you fear in this conference? I still fear the Eagles, particularly in Philly. I think we have about a 10% chance. Play them at home, 50-50. But we'll see where Philly's at now that they'll have some tape of their offense, and we'll see what other defensive coordinators do to them. So we'll see what happens there. But realistically, and I said this on the show I just did, I know you don't live in Minnesota, but there's a notion around these parts that the team, when they get really good, any team, whether it's the Twins or maybe the Wild or the Wolves, whatever, they rarely ever want to just push all of their chips in, particularly the Twins is what we're talking about here. It's like, there have been like 3 or 4 years back in the early to mid 2000s where they were the class of their division. They just needed one more bat, one more power hitting bat. But they never wanted to trade their prospects. They never wanted to sign that big free agency because they're a small market. They never pushed their chips in. 3 weeks ago, I would not have said that this was the move to make. But now seeing how this conference is and the fact that you really think about it, this team's got a 2-year window. They got this year and next year. After that, Harrison Smith's going to be old. Eric Hendrick's going to be old. Dalvin Cook's going to be old. Patrick Peterson's going to be old. The core of this defense, for the most part,
Zadarius Smith. Yeah.
Even Danielle Hunter. Those guys are going to be old. You've got this year and you've got next year. And then for all the talk that you and I might have gone back and forth on, and I still stand by that it would have been the right decision for the longer term. After 2019, I would have started to reload. You traded Stephon Diggs. Could have traded Cousins. Could have done a bunch of different things. Ran it back a few times to go 7-9 and 7-9. So I wasn't really looking forward to just running it back here again. They bet that it was all Mike Zimmer. Okay. I think people are still kicking a little too much hatred towards Mike Zimmer as far as, there were a lot of things that were his fault, but it wasn't all him. But they have proven that up until this point, they've had the benefit of a pretty easy schedule. They've been healthy. Their opponents haven't always been. So, when you put all that together, yes, absolutely, this is the time where you don't worry about draft picks and you don't worry about, your salary cap. Yes, I actually am a little disappointed they didn't make one more move, the more I think about it. But having said all that, the compensation for TJ Hockenson, at first when this deal came out, it was like, wait a second, a second, a third, and 2/4 for this guy? What? No, it's the Vikings are going to give up a second and a third for a tight end. Oh, but they're getting 2 fourth-round picks back. Now, all right, let's think about this for a second, Mike. To go from the second-round pick to the 4th round next year, assuming everything holds, the Vikings are going to be at the bottom of the draft, and it's going to be at the top end of the draft. So while it is technically going from round 2 to round 4, it's really only a round and a third, a round and a half at best. Following year, you're going from a third to a 4th. So you effectively traded 2.5 draft rounds worth of value to get this guy. Yeah, I'll take that. A second and third up front, if it was just a second and third for this guy, that would have been a lot. I think.
Yes. Yeah.
But, and you say, well, it's a couple 4th-round picks. Whatever. It's something.
It matters.
I like this deal. I'll take back a little bit of the fact that Kwesi left money on the table with Detroit during draft night where, he probably should have gotten their first next year or not given up our second this year. We had that discussion on draft night. But, and maybe it's a little bit of a make good because to me, I don't understand why Detroit felt the need to throw those 4s back at us, but we'll take
That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? It's a thing.
I like this deal. I like it, Mike.
I agree.
I like this deal on so many levels.
I do want to add one thing since you mentioned Mike Zimmer. My condolences to Adam Zimmer.
I was going to get there.
I am heartbroken to have heard that news. 38 years old. Rest in peace to him and condolences to the entire Zimmer family.
Yeah. Obviously, when we talk about Zimmer as a coach and the environment, we're talking about the work. We're not talking about the person. It really should go without saying, but in case anybody, was like, oh, you're not being very sensitive, Zimmer. I'm actually the one who's defended Zimmer the most between the both of us. We both wanted him gone. We both knew his time would come and gone. But right now, when we're talking about Mike Zimmer as the head coach and about how his 8-year tenure here had come to an end, obviously, again, no man or woman should ever have to bury a child. And
no,
Mike, Mr. Zimmer, no matter what, you'll always have a spot in our house. You're one of the 3 best coaches in this team's history, and more important, we you're fiery. We loved who you were for the first 4 years. So I'm not going to pretend that just because it didn't work out that those memories didn't happen. And
Nope,
I don't even know what
they did.
I don't even know what it would be if I was in his shoes. I certainly wouldn't be sitting up on here on the mic. But in all seriousness, thoughts and prayers to the Zimmer clan. All right, back to the issue at hand here. Do you think we gave up too much
for Hockenson?
Do you think?
No. I think they got
right. What do you think, Mike?
I think they nailed the value. I think it was the happy medium, right? It is a division rival. You're not going to get him for potato chips when he's a top 5 tight end. And I'll be honest, he was always going to be expensive for whatever team acquired him, even if it was the opposite conference in the AFC. It would have been around the same value. So I look at it and I say to myself, this was really, really well done by Kwesi. I do want to touch on the Chase Claypool thing. I actually think that was a really good move by the Bears. I think that was actually a really good move from the Bears. And I'm stealing this from Mateo, but the Canadian Megatron, what do you call him? The Mapletron, I believe it was, which is brilliant. But in all seriousness, I think
Canadian Megatron.
Yeah. It was a brilliant move because though I think that second round pick is going to be valuable, it does show you care for Justin Fields. And as much as I've absolutely destroyed Ryan Poles, because he's made me laugh the last few months for sure, with all his quotes and his trades and literally stockpiling picks like they're going out of style, this was a move for Justin Fields. And I've been saying for the guy, he's actually played pretty well this season. You can make the debate, and I'm not the biggest Justin Fields guy, you know that, but you can make the debate. Right now, he's playing the best football of anyone in this draft class. And he's doing it with no weapons, really, aside from Mooney, and a very, very average offensive line. Decent, really solid running backs, but like as a whole, it's pretty bad.
Darian, thanks for joining us. Very much appreciate you. That does complete it. No, that's one of the first things he said. You said what? Top 12 quarterback, running back, wide receiver, left tackle. So it's a super fact, actually. But no, I totally agree. I'll say this. One of the things we talked about earlier was what our expectations are. Seeing what they were. I'll just recap mine. You can recap yours. Season I said need to get to the divisional round of the playoffs, and anything short of the divisional round of the playoffs is a failed season. Getting to the divisional round is meets expectation, and getting beyond that exceeds expectations. I'm sorry, but right now it's hard for me to maintain that just getting to the divisional round meets expectations. Now, you don't want to go with well, now that they've started off this to say that the NFC Championship game, if anything short of that, a failed season. I'm going to call that a failed season if they don't get there. But now it's going to be now it's going to be a disappointment if they don't get there. But for me right now, my expectation is that bare minimum divisional round of the playoffs, and I won't call it a failed season if they don't get to the NFC Championship game, but I will call it a disappointment. What say you, Mike? Where's your expectation meter at this point?
Okay, I'll say it like this. I don't really change my opinion too much. I think that a divisional round appearance would be a very, very solid season. But to your point, the NFC's open, man. And if you don't get to the title game, when you're realistically going to be the 2 seed,
oh, there he is.
Good.
You cut out. Say that again.
Okay, are we okay?
Oh, we're back. Say that again.
Okay.
2 seed. Say it again. NFC Championship.
So we're realistically going to be the 2 seed. So if we're the 2 seed, you don't have to really play much of a team in the wild card round. Okay, like let's be honest, the 7th seed this year is going to be.
You shouldn't.
One of the worst, the best of the worst. There's not a lot of teams left. we rattled them off. It's really 6 teams that you look at and say 5 teams really that you look at and you say, we're worried about those guys a little bit. But I'll be honest, the Rams are currently the 7th seed. Are you concerned about the Rams? No.
Yeah.
They should absolutely beat the Rams if they play them. There's no O'Connell knows McVay as well as anybody.
Not at the moment. No.
So they got to win that. And this is the thing. If you beat the Rams and you know there's an upset that happens in the wild card round, you could be playing a 4 seed or a 5 seed, and you're talking about
you could be playing the 3.
Like you're playing a weaker team. You should probably win that game. And I don't care if that sounds a little unfair. This needs to be the year they take advantage. It's open. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Vikings fan. I'm saying that because what other NFC team is fearful? Philly. And there's another thing I forgot to add with the Hockenson trade. And the reason why I really like this move, what's Philly's one weakness, Justin? It's stopping the tight end. They've struggled with it all year, and now we have an elite tight end.
Somebody told me it might be. I still think San Francisco is a team to keep on your radar. Their offensive line and defensive lines can still give both of our offensive lines and defensive lines a lot of trouble. So to me, I know San Francisco is trailing Seattle and that those two are kind of going to have to duke it out, kind of like Philly and Dallas, not quite at their level, but, and I know Jimmy G is Jimmy G. We all know that, but let's just be clear. If we got to play San Francisco, it better be in our house. We do okay against them in our house. We don't do very good in Candlestick Park. Yes, I know it's not Candlestick Park. It's a joke. We don't do very well in San Francisco. So, and I don't want to go to Seattle. Okay? Half and only loses by 3. I don't want any part of Seattle or San Francisco. I don't want to go west. I'm just going to say it like this. So it is imperative that you hold on to that 2 seed. We know the South winner is going to be the 4. Most likely the East winner is going to be the 1 or the 2. You cannot fall back into that 3 spot. You just have to stay at the 2.
I agree.
So San Francisco is the biggest one here. So I'm just going to take a couple more minutes. I'll be honest with you. We've been going at this for almost an hour and a half. I don't know if you're going to do a space later on tonight. So if anybody still wants to, go follow Mike Castellino on Twitter and get in on his Twitter spaces. He is, like I said, the king of Twitter spaces here. I'm just going to say it like this. We'll try and be back on this channel and possibly the Purple Code with a day of Mike and Kyla, either Friday or Saturday to do a proper preview show. But I'm just going to say it like this. For now, for right now, this team is better than it was 24 hours ago.
Yes.
And even if Irv Smith hadn't been put on injury reserve, Irv Smith could be completely healthy. I would say the same thing. They're better than they were 24 hours ago. That's telling me that they're now serious about pushing all their chips in. I would have liked to have seen maybe another quarterback or wide receiver, but kind of like what I said to you the other day, what I didn't want is I didn't want them to be throwing a second, a fourth, and a third next year for a wide receiver. As much as I would have loved Judy from Denver. Would have loved to have that kid. Really would. But that would have cost you a lot more than what Hockenson did. And I also didn't want them to just – I didn't want to just trade, like a 5th-round pick for some player that's not going to move the needle. This is the best of both worlds. You got a player that didn't cost you too much, but a guy that's still going to move the needle. What are you thinking there, Mike?
I might really shock you here when I say this. I seen a report that Denver wanted a 2 and a 5, 2nd and 5th round pick for Judy. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, I'm glad we did what we did. Because Judy, he is still you're banking on hype. He has never really proved it at the NFL level. He's been injured, not this year, but he's just been okay. He's really not lived up to the hype he had when he came out of Alabama. I know this might be an unpopular opinion. I'm not even saying this out of bias. I am happier with TJ Hockenson because I know he's a top 5 guy at his position. Jerry Jeudy's not even a top 25 guy at his position. And I know that might offend some people, but
yeah, Judy's got a couple of I'll say this, Judy's got his he's still not quite at the level. Hawkins has only got 1 year left after this, and it's not a rookie contract. It's a 5th-year option, whereas Judy's still got a couple years left of rookie contract control. So to me, that's where I'm going to say –
I'm talking about the player. The contract, I can understand your point, and I don't disagree with that. But right now, the player, I'm talking about strictly player, not the contract. I'd rather have Hockenson than a Judy who really is unproven still as a legit NFL player. He is. And I'm not just saying that to be a hater. There's a reason why the Broncos haven't been great, and Russ has not been good. Obviously, the dangerous, meme was hilarious, and how bad Denver's been this year. But in all seriousness, Jerry Jeudy hasn't helped. It's not like he's been Julio Jones out there when he was in Atlanta as a rookie.
Right. True. Well, I think we're going to cut it about there. I've got to go eat. I haven't eaten yet. But that's okay. I will talk Vikings all night, no matter where. Vikings made a trade, and they made the statement, we're going to move forward. We're going all in. The last time a Minnesota team did that, I don't even remember. Probably when they signed Kirk Cousins. That was their all-in move because they just got off the NFC Championship game. This is in season. And no, this ain't no Herschel Walker deal. So I like this move because it makes you better this year. It gives you a piece that Kirk Cousins has needed, for want of a better way of saying it, and it didn't cost you an arm and a leg. It cost you a decent chunk, but that's what it's going to take to get good players. Teams are just going to give away good players for absolutely nothing. And the fact that it only took you 2.5 rounds of draft capital to get, and the fact that you were able to squeeze it in under this year's salary cap without having to make any mental gymnastics that we've talked about ad nauseum. Listen, obviously, if they make another move, they absolutely will have to make some salary cap moves because now they have about $5. All right. I think
they could buy potato chips. There you go.
He's got in the salary cap right now. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So Kirk Cousins is going to go back to his old stomping grounds, and I think we'll all be happy if Kirk gets to say you like that. But for right now, hey, today's all about the trade and the fact that the Vikings said we're not just going to sit and watch other teams make these deals. Any other deals around the league real quick before we get out of here? We talked about the Bears, and, I like that move for them because even though they are going into rebuild mode, they're at least giving Justin Fields a toy so that he doesn't feel like, what the heck I'm doing here.
Yeah.
Any other trades around the league that you want to touch on for the next 2 minutes or so?
I'll be really quick. The Dolphins trade for Chubb. Bradley Chubb, the outside linebacker, thought that was really good. The Dolphins also acquired Jeff Wilson. I think the Dolphins, no, look, they can't compete with Buffalo, nor can anyone else, quite frankly. And they did beat them.
Kansas City. But
yeah, but you get my point. In Buffalo, I think it's a whole different story. I'm terrified for that game when we play them in 2 weeks. But, let's avoid that at all costs. I don't want to talk about that. But the Bradley Chubb trade, I think, makes the Dolphins a legit AFC contender.
Yeah. Well, to me, they had control of that division. Again, I don't believe in the Jets. Don't believe in the Patriots. I know it's Bill Belichick, and I know that they're a solid team, but do I believe in them to make any type of meaningful noise this year?
Not.
So, realistically, Miami's going to be fighting for that wild card either way. So right now, Miami knows that they're fighting to be the 5th seed. They can fancy themselves, and I know, as you said, that they have already beaten Buffalo, but they can fancy themselves. They're not catching Buffalo. So they're going to be probably the 5th seed because nobody else besides Tennessee is coming out of the AFC South. That division is garbage, and Tennessee's just kind of okay.
Tennessee's a decent team. They really are. I got to get them credit.
Decent. They're decent, yes, but I don't know what to make of the North between Baltimore and Cincinnati. They're both going to get into the playoffs, so that's another wild card team there. And then what's going to happen in that West? I don't know. I'm pretty sure that the Denver Broncos are not going to the playoff. Kansas City. I'm saying I don't know if between the Chargers, who else is going to get that last wild card spot. So to me, Miami is the wild card team of notice in the AFC, and they definitely are now after their trades today. But it's going to be interesting. The next 4 weeks, we start separating teams here. That's September and October to see where things are to get to a point as to who's going to make deals. November is, all right, now let's start separating, the good teams from the really good teams and the bad teams go away. But I'll tell you what, Mike, we got this game Sunday. And I am almost starting to think I'm probably too lax on this game right now. I'm probably too lax on it. Not because I think that if they win this game, that means they have a chance in Buffalo or not. This team's going to play Buffalo regardless of whether they beat Washington or not. But to me, it's one of those deals where this 3-game stretch coming up after the Buffalo, Dallas, and then Thanksgiving Day with New England, they got to get this one. And now that he's got a tight end, and you know what? He's not going to know the whole playbook overnight, but a tight end with that kind of talent, he'll know his red zone. He'll know his red zone plays, and he'll know his 5-yard button hooks, like he's playing in the backyard. So I'm feeling good about Sunday, but we'll try and get on here one more time like we talked about before. So for now, this is 2/3 of a day of Mike with Kyle on the Purple Code, although, again, it's just Mike and I tonight. This is Purple and Gold for Days. Thanks so much for joining us. Like, comment, and subscribe. Share this with your friends. I know there's a lot of Viking content creators out there throwing out a lot of videos, but we thank everybody who tuned in tonight. And like I said, take it back with this. You can podcast this later on as well. For now, motto on our show is what, Mike? We want to see a Super Bowl for the Vikings just once. One Super Bowl win just once before we die. Thank you kindly. Peace. Go Wax.
Skol.